There are a couple of more functions, operators in loops. Okay, there is a while loop, repeat loop, besides the for loop that we already discussed last time. So while loop is pretty straightforward. You have a so while, right, and then you have a condition, okay, and then a set of statements, okay, and of course the condition, whatever that you put here, it should get updated in the loop. Otherwise, it just keep. It will be an infinite loop. It will never end, right? So a simple example would be, say, count, okay, less than 10, and then you say, okay, all right, we're going to print the count, and then increment the count by 1. Okay. Except that when we start, count is not defined already. So when R executes the first line, it will throw an error because it doesn't know what count is. So we have to initialize the variable. Okay. So it will go through this loop up to 10, and then it will print. So here, this is a very simple example, but you can put whatever statements that you want inside it, right? So there you go. Okay, so that's our while loop. And then we have repeat loop. Okay, and again repeat loop is like this: repeat, right? Now inside you will have your code. Okay, then you have to break out of that repeat loop. Okay, so there is a code called break. So you use break inside, and then you get out. Okay, so you must have a break, otherwise this would just keep going. Okay, so here is an example. Say we generate a number. Okay. Remember, we've used sample before. Okay, sample here, so x equal to -5 to 5, and size equal to 1. Okay, so that's going to generate one number from this sequence, right? Okay, so now we want to see whether we generate one more number and then see whether the first number and the second number are same. If it is same, then we escape. Okay, so here this is what we are trying to do: repeat until the same number is generated in 2 consecutive trials. So the best way to do this is generate the first number outside the loop. So we'll call it x sub 0. Okay, and then now we have 2 numbers. Okay, we've generated x sub 0 outside. So we are generating x1 inside the loop. So now we have two numbers, x0 and x1. So now we can check. Okay, if x0 is equal to is same as x1. Okay, so two equal signs. Okay. Now, if they are equal, then you break. Okay. Else, we set x0 to x1. Okay, put x1 in x0 and then go back. So now we come back to the repeat with the old x1 in place of x0, then we generate another number x1 and again check. So we keep going. Okay. And then once you break out, okay, when the two numbers are same, it's going to break out. Theoretically, it can go on, but practically, it's going to sooner or later, you're going to get two consecutive numbers which are the same, and then you print how many times it took. So we have to keep a counter here to see how many times we had to go through this repeat. So let's say that we say I is equal to 1. Okay, we generated x sub 0, and that's 1, right? And then we come here, generate x1, and then we increment the counter by 1. And then keep going. So once you're done, then you can print that I. Okay. So S print F. So now we're going to print I. So now we say what that I is. You can do this printing in different ways too. Remember, we did another format thing where you just inserted a number. So here we can, one possible way of doing this is it took, okay, I number of, so I'll put a percentage %d, okay, number of trials to generate the same number in two consecutive trials. Okay. Now, of course, we need to print this, so we can do print or cat or write lines. Okay, so there are no errors, syntax errors. So now we can run this. And now I have, okay, so this should come outside the loop. So my write line is inside the loop, so it's generating it's executing the write line every time it goes through the repetition. So it has to be outside the repeat loop. Okay, so now it took 8 times. So then the two numbers were equal and the break took us out. Okay, now it took 13 times. Okay. So now we have the break. We already looked at break, and then we have the next snippet. Okay, so next is it just goes to the next iteration. So going through the loop, when it hits the next line of code, the rest of the code is you skip and go to the next iteration. So an example of that will be like, suppose we have a for loop. So I in 1 to 10 or sec 10 or sec along 10, right? Okay. So now if I say if I is less than or equal to 8, I say next. Else we print I. Okay. So once the when you execute the code next, then the rest of it is skipped and it goes to the next iteration. So this is going to skip 1 through 8, and then else will get executed only for 9 and 10. Okay. So the same code now we can write in a different way for break. Okay. We've already seen break anyway, so this is another example. So we have for I in 1 to 10, right? We print I. Okay. And then say if I is greater than 3, break. Right. So it prints up to 4, okay, and when it is 4, the if condition is true, then it breaks out. Okay. So the difference between next and break is next simply skips the current iteration and goes to the next iteration. So the for loop still will go on. It's not broken out of the loop, whereas break completely breaks it out and gets out.